and it appears that there could be an end date on the Kirk Cousins era. Naturally, the people at NFL.com or wherever else, your Daniel Jeremiah's, they're going to look forward and say, if you don't have a quarterback for the future, this would be a really good situation to draft one. They could try to reach up and get someone if they really like him.
Welcome into another Purple Insider Extra. Jonathan Harrison here, joined once again by Purple Insider's Matthew Collar. And Collar, the question today is, there's been a lot of links recently for the Vikings to drafting a quarterback, whether it be Hendon Hooker, whether it be Will Levis. Question is, how legit are those links? And how would the Vikings, if they had to trade up, how would they go about doing it, considering they don't really have a whole lot of draft stock?
Yeah, I think that the mock drafters are putting two and two together here, where the Vikings restructured Kirk Cousins' contract, and it appears that there could be an end date on the Kirk Cousins era because they didn't extend him. And if we go back to all the previous off seasons, he usually gets an extension by now when there is even any question about how much longer he's going to be the Vikings quarterback. So the absence of an extension means that his contract runs out after this year. And naturally, the people at NFL.com or wherever else, your Daniel Jeremiah's, they're going to look forward and say, if you don't have a quarterback for the future, this would be a really good situation to draft one, sit him for a year, that ideal Patrick Mahomes from Alex Smith type of situation, develop that player, and then have them start the following season. It all kind of makes sense when you're looking at these quarterbacks. So I understand why they're putting together those links and, kind of reading the tea leaves here. I would also say that last year, most of these same mock drafters had Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis being drafted as first round picks, and those guys ended up dropping until the third round. So the NFL teams do a pretty good job of never really telling the outside world what is going on, leaving us all more or less guessing. We still don't know who the number one pick is going to be at this point. And even if you go back to the Trey Lance pick from San Francisco, the whole world thought it was Mac Jones who was going to be picked at the top. So I wouldn't say that there's any specific insight these mock drafters have, other than to say it just naturally makes a lot of sense. Now, to the second part of your question, it is tricky, but we also don't know how the draft board's going to fall. I mean, every year it seems like we say when there's a good draft class, oh, these guys will be gone by the 10th pick. And that doesn't usually happen. Lamar Jackson was the 32nd pick. We saw Mac Jones and Justin Fields drop out of the very top of that draft. So usually there's at least one that is taken later than expected. And if that does happen, if it gets into the teens, the Vikings could reach into their future draft capital or even look at the roster. I think that's less likely that they look at the roster and try to trade a player. But we did just see DJ Moore, the wide receiver from Carolina, be involved in a trade to move up. I don't think it's impossible to trade up from 23 where they are to a certain area of the draft, maybe the early teens. But if they're trying to go farther than that, it would likely take multiple first round picks, players involved, and it would become very difficult and convoluted. But I think it's not impossible if one of these guys drops into the early or middle teens that the Vikings, if they really like them, and I know that Kevin O'Connell said every year he interviews all the quarterbacks, so it isn't new that they interviewed the quarterbacks this year or anything like that, but they could try to reach up and get someone if they really like him. Hendon Hooker is a little bit of a different conversation because he's older and because he has an ACL injury. That's going to hurt his stock. Maybe if they want to take him, they could wait until 23 if he's their guy. But more likely than not, it seems from the top four potential picks, maybe Will Levis is the most likely to drop. So I would not count this out at all. And I think that the mock drafters at least have good reason to be mocking the Vikings at quarterback.
That's been another Purple Insider Extra for Bring Me the Sports. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Purple Insider Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you next time.